Well, hello family and friends. Welcome to another edition of From My Recipe Box. Today we have a really good one. We're going to do bolognese sauce. The recipe that we're going to do today comes from a very good friend of mine, Teresa. Teresa taught me this recipe years ago. I called her and I said, hey, I'm looking to make some bolognese and how do you make it? And she rattled off her recipe in about 2 seconds flat on the phone, which I found to be quite amazing. So my first shout out From My Recipe Box goes to my good friend Teresa. Hi there, and thanks for the recipe. I've been making this recipe for many years. It's a simple process. I'm gonna take you through it today, and we're gonna start out with the ingredients that we're gonna need. We'll start with ground meat. I'm using turkey today. You can use a meatball mix or regular ground beef, whatever you prefer, but it's a pound. We're going to do some sauteed vegetables. I have a carrot, which comes out to be about a cup of carrot. I've shredded it. You can finely chop it if you like. An onion, a medium onion, that also comes out to be around a cup. A few cloves of garlic. The recipe calls for 4 cloves. You can do more or less, depending on how much garlic flavor you want in your bolognese sauce. We have some dried oregano and dried basil today. Whatever you prefer. If it's the summertime, of course, you can put in fresh herbs, which is a lot better. 1 bouillon cube. I'm using Better Than Bouillon today, just a teaspoon of that because that's what I happen to have, but the recipe calls for 1 beef bouillon cube. A splash of red wine of your choice. Remember to use something that you would drink always when you're cooking. And we have pureed tomatoes. Today I'm lucky to have a 32-ounce jar of Teresa's homemade tomato sauce. I'm going to use that, but in lieu of that you can use a regular size large can of crushed tomatoes or tomato puree. This I think is 28 ounces. Some cans are 32, but it really doesn't matter. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and that's the ingredients. Oh, and a little bit of water, half a cup of water, and some celery. Again, 1 celery stick. This is about a half a cup. So that's the ingredients. We're going to start out by sauteing the ground turkey in a pan with some olive oil, which I also have here. We'll get that done as the first step in the process, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, I'm sauteing the ground turkey right now on the stove on a medium heat. I'm using a 10-inch Dutch oven with high sides. Make sure that you use a pan that you can saute the meat in and the vegetables, and still have enough room for all of the tomato sauce at the end for your final product, for your final sauce. So for this process today, the way I am doing this is I'm gonna saute the meat in this pan. I'm gonna transfer it to a bowl. And then I'm going to go in and saute the vegetables in the same pan. Now you can saute the vegetables in a regular saute pan separately and combine it all later, but I like this method of doing it all in one pot just simply because all the flavors stay in the same pot and it's one less pan to wash. So once we get this meat all completely cooked and sauteed, which only takes a couple of minutes, I am going to lift out the meat with a slotted spoon so I can let the oils from the meat, although turkey there's not that much there, but if you were doing ground beef or something you'd have a lot more oil on the bottom of the pan. Take the meat out with a slotted spoon, put it into another dish, and then you can discard of some of that oil before you actually saute the vegetables, just leaving a tablespoon or so that the vegetables don't stick to the bottom of the pan. So let's get the meat out of here and move on to the veggies. Okay, I've got the meat out of the pan, as you can see there, steaming away. If you want to too, when you take it out, you can put a paper towel underneath the meat just to soak up any of those extra oils if you're so inclined. They do add a lot of good flavor to the sauce, so you don't really have to do that if you don't want to. Let's go with the vegetables. So we'll get the onion in first. I left a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of this pan, about a tablespoon, just like I said, so that things don't stick. We'll put in the carrot next. All of these things should be cut up about the same size so they, you know, saute at the same rate of speed together. And then we were going to go with the celery. And we'll just let those come together. So here's where I would start to put in some seasoning, some salt and pepper. So let's do that, a little bit of salt. You know, you can always, like I say, you can put in more salt and pepper later. You can't take it out, so don't put too much to start off with until you taste your sauce and see later on how you like it. And then we're just going to let this all saute for a few minutes till everything gets nice and translucent. And then we're going to come back and add our garlic and some of our seasonings as well. So see you in a minute once the vegetables are sauteed. Okay, it's been a few minutes and the onions, carrots, and celery are sauteing nicely in that olive oil under medium heat or over medium heat. It's time to add the garlic. Just get that in there, and I'm going to, at this point, put in the dried basil and the dried oregano. These are both fresh from my garden from last year, dried, so they have a lot of flavor. Anything you have from the store will work just as well. I'm putting in the dried seasonings now so that they can get moist with the vegetables. If you were using fresh herbs from your garden, if it's a summer or if you can get them in the store, I would wait and put them in once I've got the tomato sauce in, because they really don't need to cook if they're fresh. They just need to impart their flavor. So either way will work. We're doing it this way because what I have is dried. So this we'll just saute another couple of minutes in here. And then what we're going to do is move on to the next step in the process, which is going back to the meat and adding some ingredients there and combining everything together. Okay, so we're going to put a little bit more olive oil in the bottom of the pan. Our veggies soaked up what was there, and turkey is a little dry, so I'm going to add a little bit more. Put it back on the medium heat. Add the turkey, ground turkey, cooked, back into the pan. It'll come up and get warm again on the medium heat. And then we're going to add some more ingredients here. Now I did, unfortunately, leave out an ingredient at the beginning when I had the ingredient review, and that's a tablespoon of tomato paste. I'm using here a tomato powder, and then I'm going to add a tablespoon of water to that. Sorry about that, but I will put some text on the ingredient list so that you don't forget it when you're gathering your ingredients. Bolognese is a big process in getting all of the ingredients ready. There's a lot to chop and gather. That's probably the hardest part of the recipe, quite honestly, is getting everything ready to go. But and there's a lot of things to put in here, so sorry about that, but we are going to do that. So the next step, we've got the meat back in there. We are going to add the water, half a cup, and we are going to add a teaspoon of our bouillon. Like I said, you could use a bouillon cube, a beef bouillon cube. You know, improvise too. If you don't have a beef bouillon cube and you want to use a chicken bouillon cube, I don't think it's going to hurt anything. But I would definitely not omit the step of the bouillon because it gives it a lot of good flavor. So I'll mix that in there and let that heat through. And you're just going to let this saute for a little bit. And then we're going to add, once that starts to come up, we're going to add the tomato paste and the splash of wine. So right now I'm just going to add this tomato powder and just a splash of water. Tablespoon or so. You can use regular tomato paste out of a can, just use a tablespoon of it and put it in there. So at this point you've got almost like a sloppy joe, right? You've got meat, a little bit of liquid, all mixed in together. Looking pretty good. Let me see if I can show you. Let that go. And we're going to put in our splash of red wine. So literally, splash of red wine. That's all you need. Maybe a couple tablespoons. And we're going to let this start to cook off the liquids here. And once that's done, it'll only take a couple minutes. We'll finish putting our bolognese together. So the meat and our tomato paste and our wine and our water and our bouillon will all come together. Only cooked a few minutes. Let the wine, cook out the alcohol on the wine. It's looking really good. So now we're simply gonna add the veggies back in. Real easy. Add them all back in. Make sure you have this on a simmer on a medium heat. Don't let it get too high, too crazy, which I can hear actually that's happening. So I'm going to lower that a little bit, mix them in, because everything's fully cooked, right? You don't really have to cook the meat and the veggies anymore. What you're doing at this point is you're going to meld all this with your tomatoes. So with that, I'm going to add the tomatoes at this point. If you have a can of whole tomatoes, you can certainly use those. Just break them up. Obviously, they'll break down really well once you put them in the sauce. Just use your hands. That would be okay. So that's it. So now everything's in here. We're just mixing it all to combine. I'll give you a nice close-up shot of what this looks like now. And then we're gonna cover it slightly. I'll actually do that for you. You don't have to cover it all the way, but cover it slightly. You can take the spoon out and let it simmer. Let it simmer for an hour. Just let it perk away. And after that time, you are ready to serve it and put it over your favorite pasta. So, like I said, just give it a stir every 15 minutes and we'll show you what it looks like when it's done. See you in a few. Okay, here's our bolognese. So far, looks terrific. We're gonna let it simmer for an hour and see what it looks like when it's done. So our bolognese has been perking away for about an hour. Let's take a look. You can see that it's much thicker and it's darker in color, which means the tomatoes are cooked through. It's got enough juice still left in it to adhere to that pasta. So I think that this batch we can call done. So my final tip on bolognese today is make it one day and let it sit in the refrigerator overnight and serve it the next. That gives a lot of time for all of the flavors to meld together and really boost the flavor of your bolognese. Of course, you could serve it same day, no problem with that, but I find that I really like it better if I make it the day before. It just seems to be a lot more flavorful. Make sure you serve it over your favorite pasta. Make sure you serve it with a really good macaroni cheese, your favorite, grated Parmesan or Romano, and enjoy it with a nice glass of wine. Hope you all had fun today. Until the next time, this is Sandy. I hope you enjoyed Pasta Bolognese from my recipe box. Mwah.